1 2 1 2, testing the translation. Testing the translation.
Buenos días.
Good morning.
Recording in progress.
We would appreciate if you could wait just for a few more minutes. There are still shareholders who are entering the platform. People are still registering, so we're just going to give them a couple of minutes to complete their registration, and then we will begin the assembly. Thank you very much for your understanding.
Recording stopped. Recording in progress.
Yo tengo. Muy buenos días, doy un saludo muy especial a
Very good morning. I would like to extend a warm welcome to our shareholders, and we are going to start our assembly of the Colombian Securities Exchange. I'd like to welcome all members of our board of directors, Alberto Velandia, the General Secretary of the Exchange, and Alberto Roa Camargo, our Statutory Auditor from KPMG. As you know, it's my duty to chair this meeting, and I would like to hand over to Mr. Rosillo so that he can formally begin the assembly. Thank you very much for coming, and a very warm welcome. Very good morning to everybody. A very special greeting to Mr. Cordova, all of our board of directors who are here with us today, and all of you shareholders. It's a pleasure to be here with you. We'd like to welcome you and thank you for joining us at our ordinary shareholders assembly. And if it's okay with you, I would like to formally begin this virtual ordinary assembly of shareholders of the Colombian Securities Exchange. Mr. Velandia, please would you indicate the quorum? Good morning, shareholders. We have represented. Very good morning, shareholders. I would like to inform you that here at the start of the assembly, we have 35,362,000 shares represented of a total of 60,513,469, which means we have a quorum of 58.44%. And for this virtual assembly, we use a platform which has been designed to allow shareholders to register and participate in the meeting and vote. But it is necessary that you have a good quality internet connection. You should also keep in mind that because this is a virtual assembly, there may be some delays in sound or image, and we would appreciate your understanding if that happens. And when you registered, You authorized the exchange to use your data in accordance with the law and to allow us to correctly conduct this session. On the registration platform that you use to register for the assembly, you can access the voting section of the assembly. And you can follow the meeting on Zoom and participate in it. During the assembly, it's important that you keep the Zoom meeting window open and also another window open for the voting platform. Shareholders can only vote on the voting platform. Any shareholders who want to ask questions on any of the questions in the agenda should ask to do that by raising their hand in the Zoom platform, which you can find on the bottom of the screen in the reactions menu, and raise your hand. And we will authorize shareholders who've requested permission to intervene to do so. On all of the points on the agenda and in accordance with the rules of the assembly, we will allow the interventions that the president considers necessary, and each intervention will be a maximum of 5 minutes. No shareholders may intervene more than twice on the same point. It's necessary that shareholders, when they intervene, identify themselves with their full name and indicate whether they're acting in their own name or as a representative of another shareholder that they identify. On the voting platform, you will see 2 sections. The first section is voting panels. In this section, you'll be able to see when the voting process has been activated. And in that case, you need to select the shareholder or shareholders that you represent and vote on each of the proposals which is being submitted for consideration at the assembly. The second option is a support chat. You'll be able to request technical support if you have any problems with the voting platform during the assembly. The voting functionality of the platform will be activated every time that a vote is opened on each of the points which is being submitted for consideration in accordance with the agenda. And the vote will be open until the chair has indicated that it needs to be closed. When you're going to vote, you need to select the Verify Active Votes button to verify the available votes and the potential options. To vote, you need to select the name of the shareholders that you're voting for, and then you will see the following options: in favor or against. If you do not select either of those options, it will be considered that you have abstained. The system will then ask you to confirm your voting intent, and once you've confirmed that, your vote will be registered and may not be modified. If you represent a number of shareholders and they have the same voting intention, you can use the option to vote for all of the companies that you represent to vote as a block. Once the vote has ended, the results will be announced. If we have any technological issues with the voting platform, we have a contingency platform that we will activate, which involves sending you a new link on Zoom or via email to the email that you registered when you registered for the assembly. If this happens, we will give you the instructions so that you're able to vote. If there are any technical issues with the Zoom platform that stop us from continuing with the assembly, we have a contingency plan which consists of continuing the meeting on the Meet platform, which is the alternative meeting platform if it's needed. And you will immediately be sent a link if this contingency is activated to your emails that you registered when you registered for the assembly. And so we recommend that you keep your email open during the meeting in case we need it. I'd also like to inform you that this year, we have joined the Andean Forest Recovery Program and a site about 35 kilometers from Bogota. What this consists of is the planting of 118 trees, which is being managed by the Natura Foundation. And this ratifies our commitment, BBC Group's commitment to protect and take care of our planet. Finally, I'd like to remind you that in 2021, we obtained carbon neutral certification, and we are the first stock market in the region to do so. And the second point of the agenda, and I'd just like to once again touch on the quorum. At this moment, we have 38,658,000 shares, which correspond to just over 63% of the subscribed shares. The second point on the agenda is the appointment of the Assembly Chair and Secretary. In accordance with Article 36 of the Exchange Bylaws, I'd like to inform the Assembly that Mauricio Rosillo, the President, will be the Chair of this Assembly. Thank you, Mr. Beltrán. And in accordance with Articles 36 of the Bylaws, I will act as Secretary of the Assembly. The Secretary of the Assembly will be Dr. Alberto Velandia Rodriguez. Third point, reading and approval of the agenda. Mr. Velandia, please would you read the agenda for this meeting? Thank you. The proposed agenda is as follows. 1, verification of quorum. 2, appointment of Assembly Chair and Secretary. 3, reading and approval of the agenda. 4, appointment of the Counting Committee and the committee that will revise and approve the minutes. 5, approval of the Board of Director and President's performance reports for 2021, including the Corporate Governance Report and the Audit and Risk Committee report. 6, the Statutory Auditors report. 7, financial statements, including approval of the individual and consolidated financial statements from 2021 and the approval of first-time adoption items. 8, revision and approval of voluntary reserve appropriation of reserves and the profit distribution project. And 9, corporate social responsibility and annual donation programs. 10, shareholders' proposals. I would like to inform shareholders that this assembly was called by the President of the Exchange, having been approved by the Board of Directors, and was advised with the due notification in accordance with all legislations. And both were made on the 28th of February 2022. I would also like to inform you that the documents indicated in Article 446 of the Commercial Code were published on the 28th of March 2022. The books and other proof required by law were made available to shareholders who wish to inspect them in person in the exchange offices with the advance notice indicated by the legislation. Equally, all information related to points that will be voted on the Assembly was published opportunely on BBC's website. I would also like to inform shareholders that were unable to register in advance. The exchange has made available a mechanism which allows you to follow the meeting using the link indicated on the BBC's website in accordance with legislation, with transmission of images, sound, interpretation in Spanish and English in real time. Thank you, Alberto. I would like to our shareholders to please vote on approving the day's agenda. So the voting process on the agenda has opened.
Señor secretario, nos indica, por favor.
Mr. Secretary, please would you tell us the results of the vote? And this decision has been made by 93.7% of the participating shareholders of the Assembly. Very good. Let's continue, please, with the next point on the agenda. Fourth point on the agenda, appointment of the Commission that will revise and approve the minutes. In accordance with Article 21 of the General Shareholder Assembly Rulebook, a committee needs to be appointed to revise and approve the minutes. The chair proposes the following participants: Joanna Molina, representative of De Vivienda Bank; Christian Cruz, representative of Credit Corp Fiduciaria; and Ana Maria Palacios, representative of the Health Foundation and other shareholders. Very good. I would like to submit to your consideration the appointment of the Commission for revising and approving the minutes. Let's proceed, please, with the vote. Shareholders, from now, the vote is open. At this moment, the vote is open. Please go to the voting platform and select the Verify Active Vote button.
¿Se va a cerrar el proceso de votación?
The voting process is going to close, and the voting process has closed. Mr. Velandia, please, would you give us the results of the vote? And this point has been approved by 97.36% of the participating shareholders. Equally, I informed the Assembly that the General Secretary has been in previous contact with the people who've been proposed for the committees, and these people had already accepted their postulation, and so it is understood that they have accepted their role in this sense. Please proceed with the next point on the agenda. Fifth point on the agenda: approval of the Board of Directors and President's performance reports for 2021. Thank you. I would like to hand over to Juan Pablo Córdoba so that he presents the report that has been submitted to shareholders by being published on our website and was also made available to people to consult during the period that the law requires for inspection. And this informs the corporate governance report and also the audit and risk committee reports. Please go ahead, Mr. Córdoba. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mauricio. Once again, I would like to greet all of the shareholders in 2021. 2021 was a tricky year, as you know, especially the first half of the year in Colombia. There were a lot of difficulties, and then there was a recuperation across the rest of the year. And the last quarter of the year, we had better performance. In this context, it's really it makes me happy to report to you some very, very favorable results for the organization and all of the companies in the group in 2021. As you know, we've already shared with you in recent years our strategy. Our strategy has 6 pillars. These 6 pillars are broadening of our core business, which is the capital market business, the conversion of the capital market into a 100% digital business, technology and innovation as an access pillar, vertical integration of the value chain in the Colombian securities markets, regional integration that we've been working on, and also corporate sustainability. These are the 6 pillars of our corporate strategy, and it makes me very happy to tell you that we've enjoyed significant advances on all 6 fronts in terms of broadening the core business. For some years, we've been consolidating our trading platforms all under one roof on just one trading screen that allows people to access all transactions, that are not just allows people to access technological tools, but we also facilitate ordering and the automation of ordering. And we had a number of successes on this front. In addition, in 2021, we also completed our alliance with MSCI, and the Colombian index Colcap is now called the MSCI Colcap Index, and it uses MSCI methodology, which, as you know, is one of the principal providers of indexes that are global indexes for emerging markets and also principal markets. Also in 2021, we relaunched our global market. This is the market segment that allows Colombians in Colombian pesos to access assets abroad. And this is an important broadening thanks to our allies of products in the market. And we've seen a significant increase in Colombians participating in this segment. And also the assets in custody have been growing month after month. And I think this is really interesting because it allows Colombians once again to take positions abroad in pesos Colombia, in Colombian pesos. We also improved our liquidity performance program in derivatives in terms of the 100% digital capital market. As you know, 2 years ago, we launched our Ascenso platform, and this has consolidated really well in 2021. We had 56 successful campaigns, more than 4,700 investors invested over the year, and we closed financing worth more than 40 billion pesos for Colombian SMEs. And our target for this year is to launch into the share segments or bonds convertible to shares. In terms of massifying the digital market, we've worked hand in hand with credit establishments in terms of dematerialized promissory notes for digital products that allow companies to provide credit online. We had great results, like 5.9 million promissory notes signed, and we closed the year with more than 14 million promissory notes in custody in our depository, and with 84 new clients. And in terms of moving towards the digital market, we also launched new digital platforms that allowed us to bring onboard new people. We now have more than 670,000 investors in the market. And we had important progress on digital customers through the use of technology, and we will continue to work on making our infrastructure even more robust. And at the end of last year, as you probably already know, we launched our new BBC digital portal that's going to put new products into production across the year. And our new developments are all using the best new practices of cloud-based services. In terms of vertical integration in 2021, we enjoyed important developments in the consolidation. We merged the CRCC with the CCDC, and this merger happened in 2020. In 2021, it was consolidated, and from February 2021, we offered the market clearing and settlement of foreign exchange using a central counterparty, which makes us one of only 2 markets in Latin America with working in the foreign exchange market. And this is a huge advance, and the benefits for the market have been enormous. Volumes have increased, and risk management has improved as well for all market agents. We also consolidated our position of control in the chamber, reaching 57.2% of the chamber's equity. And the chamber is now consolidated in the market as a multi-product, multi-market product with presence in all segments of the Colombian capital market. And so our vertical integration in 2021 was impressive. In terms of regional integration, we were able to close the agreement with the Chilean and Peruvian exchanges to complete the regional integration, constitute a regional holding company, which will become the owner of the exchanges in each of the three countries. And we shared this with you in our extraordinary shareholder meeting in January. You have all of the elements you need in this sense, and I'd just like to update you that we continue to work in the areas that I shared with you in January. And in Colombia and Peru, we achieved the threshold of 50% of signed agreements. We're doing really well in Chile. We're above 25%. It's a little bit slower, but there's full commitment to continue. And once we've achieved all of the necessary thresholds with the Santiago exchange, we'll start the process of legislative approval. And we'll share all information with you. And so 2021 was a really, really important year for the regional integration process. And it's going to make possible for the first time in a long time that we've been talking about this. We're now taking concrete steps in this regard. And in terms of corporate sustainability, which is a commitment of the organization, and it's one of our strategic pillars, in 2021, we'd like to highlight 2021 because we achieved our carbon neutral company certification. We've been offsetting our carbon output for many years now, but in 2021, we were actually able to become certified, so we can now formally say that we're a carbon neutral company. And with this achievement makes us the first exchange in Latin America to have achieved the certification. So it's a very, very important achievement for the organization. And I'd like to highlight here that it's not just the exchange, but it's the exchange and all of its subsidiaries. It's all companies in BBC Group that are part of the certification. And so we're all certified. And in terms of social impact, we've been strengthening our initiatives, the one that we shared with you last year, our talent initiative, to take young people from low-income families and bring them into software development and new digital topics, which is the future for Colombian youth, and giving them these opportunities is something that we're supporting through this program in social responsibility. And we plan to continue in this regard. And finally, in terms of corporate governance, we updated our sustainability policy last year, and we've been strengthening our diversity policy in the board of directors by engaging 3 women, as you know, to our board of directors last year. So that's really the summary of the main aspects of our strategy. Let me just quickly pass on to look at BBC Group. As you know, that the exchange is the parent company of the group. And we have 100% of the holdings in Decibel, 57.2% of CRCC, and 100% of Brescia. And we've also got investments in partners where we don't have control, but they're an important part of our strategy. In Set ICAP and Derivax. Set ICAP is the broker, OTC broker in FX and Derivax. And through these companies, we now have presence in all segments of the value chain, as you can see in the 4 markets: equities, fixed income, derivatives, and FX. And we have presence in the entire capital market with 1 or more of our companies. And this strategy of integrating everything under the umbrella of the exchange is of huge benefits to our users and market participants, in the sense that we're unifying processes, unifying strategies and coordinating them. And we've just got one commercial face that we use to develop new products. In financial terms, we closed the year with some very favorable results. In spite of the difficulties in the first half of the year, it was a complex time, but we were able to recover in the second half of the year, and we closed the year with consolidated income of 208 billion pesos. EBITDA was 66.5 billion pesos. which is 8% higher than the previous year. And our net profit was 42.4 billion pesos. And we had an extraordinary year, previous year from the sale of Sophos. If you compare the ordinary profit of the group we can see growth of 22%. Obviously, the total falls because we don't have the benefit of the sale of Sophos. And this will be seen in what we're going to propose to you in a moment with the dividend distribution project. In terms of the balance, you can see that close the year with a total equity. And you can see in the middle of this slide, the two pie charts, which show evolution of the business by business area and company. It's really important to highlight that post-trade represents an important part of our strategy of vertically integrating business in the country, because it's an important income pillar, and it's important to highlight as well the information line and how it's been growing to now represent 17% of the company's income. These are the individual profit and loss of each of the companies. There was growth in BBC and Decival of 2%, and in other subsidiaries had absolutely extraordinary performance last year. I'd really like to highlight CRCC's 57% growth in income. This is obviously a benefit of their merger with the CCDC, and the CCDC's income, which is now being incorporated into CRCC. But the merger also led to growth in the combined business of both organizations, and they closed the year with an EBITDA of 14 billion pesos, which is extremely significant. Brescia also enjoyed growth of 15% and recovered its profitability and Brescia's role in the Colombian market. Set ICAP grew by 16%. Very significant, that growth. And their EBITDA was 22 billion pesos. And this consolidates the growth tendency in this company's performance. We only own 50%, but it's consolidating itself very well in the market. Derivex, we're hoping for the culmination of the regulatory process, and one of the circulars that we need was issued. One of the circulars to fully implement the mechanism. We hope that the second resolution is published in the coming months, which will give us full license to operate in the centralized electronic market for electric energy contracts. As you can see, all companies in the group really posted extremely positive financial results. And the exchange and the depository with the really impressive EBITDA. And the consolidation of all of these businesses is moving along really well. And in 2021, in spite of the difficulties we faced, we closed with some very favorable results. In terms of the market, some of the important highlights, I think we've got a few things to celebrate here. In fixed income, we issued bonds for 10.5 trillion pesos. This is not a record, but it's an extremely impressive figure that we achieved over 31 bond issuances. It's an impressive figure. As I mentioned at the beginning, the promissory note line is also growing very impressively. Impressive growth in 2021. And in terms of Ascenso is still quite small, but it's becoming significant because we've opened the door to SMEs and innovators to access the capital markets. I made a good number of campaigns on the Ascenso platform last year. And I think when you have a look at it, allows SMEs to join the capital market as well. So you can see that all performance was good, with the exception of the share market. Unfortunately, that was very affected in the third quarter of the year, but all the other markets had important growth. across the year, including derivative with very significant growth of 54%. The market cap reached 370 trillion pesos, which is in terms of post-trade, there are two elements that I'd like to highlight. The first is open interest, which is the open risk position at the CRCC, which grew by 70% last year, 197 trillion pesos. Really, really significant, and shows the importance the CRCC has been achieving across the Colombian market. It's an indicator which really evidences the Chamber's positioning in the Colombian market. Something else that I would like to highlight are assets in custody. During the pandemic, there was a significant drop in assets in custody. This has been recovering, and we closed the year with 536 trillion pesos. And these are important figures in terms of post-trade. And finally, in our information line, the ICOLCAP ETF is the principal one on the market and achieved 6.8 trillion pesos under management. It's a very significant figure. And as I mentioned at the beginning, our digital strategy has enabled us to onboard 37,000 people in the digital share market, and I think that's very significant. In terms of sustainability, last year the Board of Directors updated our corporate sustainability policy and incorporated 3 new SDGs for sustainable development from the United Nations, gender equality, and then number 9 and number 17. So we now have 6 SDG objectives in our sustainability strategy. And in terms of IR recognition, we incorporated, this has been completely coordinated with issuers, we incorporated sustainability criteria so that IR recognition has become an SDG brand. And this means that we're very, very well prepared to integrate with Chile. We've got 32 issuers who are very, very committed to sustainability and produce comprehensive sustainability reports. In terms of themed bond issuances, we had 1.9 trillion pesos issued over 7 issuances last year. In the report, all of the names and issuances are clearly identified. It's a very, very satisfactory result on the side of the investors and the issuers. And it shows how important sustainability is in the financial market. In the group's environmental management, as I mentioned, we achieved carbon neutral certification. This is hugely important because this allows us not just to offset our carbon footprint, but 2.6 times our carbon footprint. But it's not just about offsetting, it's also about reducing our footprint. And in that sense, our benchmark is 2019's measurement, and we've reduced our footprint by 46% compared to our benchmark from 2019. So this shows our commitment, the commitment of all of the companies in the group, and all of our employees in the organization. In terms of social responsibility, as I mentioned, we've been supporting this talent initiative that hopes to help youth from lower socioeconomic strata to enter into the technology industry through our financial contributions. We're now supporting 60 young people, especially women. It's very difficult to ensure that because the selection process is not always easy to ensure, but we are supporting the process of selecting women to join these programs as well. And now of those 60 people, 51 have found employment. They've found permanent employment with a average salary of 2.9 million pesos per month. And we think that if these people hadn't joined our program, they would have been on a minimum wage. So really, the potential of this program is huge, and has the advantage of, because it's a virtual program. We're present in 17 different departments in the country. In this program as well, we have a grant program. We're supporting in digital and technology formation 20 students at the International Polytechnic. And this has also been a very successful program. In terms of the organizational side, our commitment to gender equality is important. We have a gender balance of 50% between men and women in the organization. And I think this positions us very well in the market as an employer. We're part of Great Place to Work and family responsible company programs. And our vaccination program has achieved almost everybody in the organization has been fully vaccinated. And finally, our corporate governance report and committee report, which again is all contained in the complete report, which you've had access to. All of the reports are there. I'd just like to highlight a couple of things here in terms of corporate governance. And I think it's really important to highlight the advances that we've made in gender diversity in the board of directors by engaging 3 very capable women to our board of directors. And in the corporate governance committee as well, we've also modified our behavior and ethics manual. In the Audit and Risk Committee, the Audit and Risk Committee has obviously been monitoring all risk events, obviously, but also corrective action, which improves the resilience of all of the organization's services. And also, as the exchange has been becoming, is the parent company of all of the companies in the group, the Audit and Risk Committee plays an important coordination role in managing risk at all of the different companies in the group. These really are the elements that we want to share with you as our shareholders, and we are here to answer any questions or doubts that you may have. And also, I'd like to remind you that the complete comprehensive report is available to you. Thank you very much, Mr. Cordova, for presenting the management report to us. I'd like to remind you that all of the information is published on the exchange website and is available to shareholders. I would like to please ask the secretary to give us an update on the quorum. At this moment, we have 46,871,400 shares, which is equivalent to a quorum of 77.46%. I would like to ask the shareholders if anybody has any questions for Mr. Cordova about the management report. No, I don't see anything in the chat. Okay, in that case, I suggest that we proceed to the vote. From this moment, the vote is open.
Vamos a ir cerrando la votación.
We are just about to close the vote. Yes, sir. We're just taking a look. Just making sure that the system, that's great. Okay. From now, the vote has closed. Please, would you indicate the results to us? And on this point has been approved by 90.09% of the quorum. Thank you, Belandia. Please, would you read the next item on the agenda, sixth item on the agenda, Statutory Auditors Report. I understand that Gustavo Alberto Roa, the principal statutory auditor, is not actually with us today. So I will hand over to Jorge Rodriguez and Jessica Marquez so that they can tell us their findings. Good morning, everybody. President of the Assembly, thank you, Alberto. I'm the Director of Audits at KPMG, Jorge Rodriguez. Jessica Marquez is with me here today, the alternate statutory auditor who's here with us today, so that she can help us to share the statutory auditors' reports with us. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Please forgive me. My camera doesn't seem to be working. I can't activate my camera. To all members of the Assembly of Shareholders, we've brought our results on the audit of the individual and financial statements, the Economy and Securities Exchange 2021. I'm just going to briefly summarize both reports, and I'd start with the individual financial statements. It has 7 sections. In the first we conclude. Our audit concludes, and I'm going to give you my opinion. In our opinion, the individual financial statements, which have been prepared with information faithfully taken from the books, reasonably show all material aspects of the individual financial situation of the exchange at 31st of December 2021. I don't know if you could help me just please by going down a little bit for a moment, please. It doesn't go down. The individual results of the operations and cash flow were prepared with in agreement with the international standards on auditing accepted in Colombia. As I mentioned to you at the beginning, this is an opinion without reservations. The next section gives our basis for opinion, and we can say that the audit was conducted with internationally accepted audit standards that are accepted in Colombia. The third section states key audit findings for the year audited. There was just one key finding on the financial statements related to the valuation of migrating to the new SAP HANA system, which was conducted in 2021. It's a matter which was key for us in the audit, and that's why I'm mentioning it in this section. I don't know if the person who's projecting the opinion could please go down to the second page of the report. The image, it's just the first. So don't worry, we're just mentioning that in 2021, the new reporting system was implemented, the SAP HANA system, and we considered that the change was a key audit topic. Because any problems could have caused serious issues in the data migration. And on the right-hand side, we're informing everybody who reads the financial statements the audit processes related with this matter. In our opinion, the financial information at 31st of December 2020 and its comparison with 2020 which was also audited by KPMG, that issued a report on 24th of February 2021. That was also an unqualified opinion on them. In terms of management and preparation of the financial statements have been prepared using an ongoing concern basis. And finally, we conclude on other legal and regulatory requirements of the statutory audit in Colombia, and we conclude that the exchange's accounting has been conducted legally and according with the standards. The transactions have been correctly represented in the books and have followed the General Assembly of Shareholders' instructions, and all minutes have been kept in accordance with the Colombian financial superintendents, and all data is in accordance with the financial statements that accompany this report. And also all compliance has, all payments have been made to the social security system. In terms of the internal control system, in terms of Articles 1 and 3 of Article 209 of the Commercial Code. This opinion was issued on the 25th of February 2022. This is a summary of our opinion on the individual financial statements. I'm just going to give a summary of our opinion of the consolidated financial statements, in which we've also concluded that the financial statements are clean, without findings. And I'm going to, in my opinion, the consolidated financial statements have been reasonably presented in all material aspects. Have reasonably presented all material aspects of the group's performance in 2021, in accordance with the reporting standards accepted in Colombia, as well as the comparative information from the previous year. The structure of this report is the same as the individual report, just that in this case, a key audit finding on the consolidated financial statements is related to the migration to SAP HANA, which happened in a number of different companies in the group. And in the group, we had the issue of the deterioration in intangible capital gains from the merger between the two chambers. We did not identify any findings which affected our judgment. This is the summary of the opinion on the consolidated financial statements and the individual financial statements of the Colombian Securities Exchange to 31st of December 2021. I don't know if any of the shareholders present has any questions. Thank you very much, Jessica and Jorge, for your report. If you believe it convenient, please, Mr. Secretary, read the next point on the agenda. 7, financial statements. Items A and B, approval of the individual and consolidated financial statements from 2021, and also approval of the first-time adoption items. So the financial statements from 2021 were audited and presented to the board of directors so that both would approve them for submission to the Assembly of Shareholders. I'd like to inform shareholders that all of the financial statements have been available for inspection since the 22nd of February 2021 on the Exchange website and also in the Exchange's offices. Thank you, Mr. Alberto. I would like to hand over to Diego Fernandez, Financial Vice President of the Exchange, to explain the financial statements to 31st of December 2021. As Dr. Velandia mentioned, all of these statements have been available on the company's website. Please, Mr. Fernandez, go ahead. Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning to all of shareholders. I'm just going to summarize the company's financial situation, the individual and consolidated financial situation. Let's begin with the Killamine Securities Exchange individual financial statements. Basically, we're highlighting the income increased by 8% overall, above 73 billion pesos. In terms of expenses, expenses grew by 13%. And we had two important topics that I'd like to mention that Mr. Cordoba mentioned in his report. There were some important expenses related to transitioning our systems to the cloud. It's been significant in the last few years. And we also had some extraordinary expenses related to the regional integration process. But in general terms, the net profit in the period of 39.4 billion pesos. If we compare it with the previous year, if you remember in 2020, we had extraordinary income and profits. One of them was the sale of Sophos, and the other was a majority holding in CRCC. And those profits, obviously, we didn't see those in 2021. But as Mr. Cordoba said, the result of 39 billion pesos is very, very positive in terms of 2021's result. And in terms of the consolidated, in terms of the balance on the next slide, and in terms of assets and liabilities, here we have a result with 624 billion pesos in assets and liabilities of 22 billion and equity of 602 billion pesos. And this has been consolidated in recent years. And it's really important to highlight here that the main movements were related to the cash position. When we sold Sophos at the end of 2020, and in 2021, we had some outflows resulting from paying out almost 70 billion pesos in dividends. And in terms of our current and non-current liabilities, they correspond to the fact that we made the most of the situation from 2020 to pay all of our financial obligations, all of our debt that we carried since 2019. We paid it all off. And the next slide, please. In terms of cash flow, basically to share with the shareholders, our cash flow position is a very solid and healthy position. We're not just controlling expenses, but also our debt, our level of debt is very, very healthy. And in terms of dealing with our providers, we've been complying with provider payments, and it's allowed us to consolidate a very positive cash situation. And that's really what I'd highlight in terms of cash flow at the end of 2021. It's a very positive position at the end of 2021. In terms of equity changes, I think the essence here is the main change in terms of comparing what we had at the end of 2020 and our 2021 profits were in around 39 billion pesos. And again, the company consolidated equity growth, important equity growth, based on profits and our positive cash flows, Mr. Cordoba mentioned. This is generally, in general terms, what I'd like to say about the individual financial statements. I'd like to pass on to the consolidated financial statement. In terms of income, our group has achieved almost 209 billion pesos in income. And I'd like to highlight the really, really good performance of our subsidiaries, which, as Mr. Corredor mentioned as well in his report, in terms of the risk chamber in Precia and other subsidiaries, and ICAP as an associate, growth, double-digit growth, and really good results. And this means that we're now a group that can generate 209 billion pesos in consolidated income. There's a question. Please go ahead. Enrique Espejo, please. Hello. Hello, can you hear me? We hear you. Please go ahead. Yes, I'd like to know the reason why equity fell from 2020 to 2021. I think it fell quite substantially. And I would like an explanation of that, please. I'm sorry, who asked the question? Enrique Espejo. But he's asking about it's about the distribution of the extraordinary dividend. If you remember, Sofos was sold in December 2020, and this gave us an extraordinary profit, which entered our equity in December 2020, and that was why we paid 70 billion pesos in dividends last year, and we generated 39 billion in profit in 2021. But this difference generates a drop in our equity. But this is a fall in equity, which has been shared with shareholders. Thank you. Thank you very much for the explanation. Go ahead, Diego. Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to carry on with the report on the consolidated financial statements. As I was mentioning, we had 10% income growth. In terms of expenses, growth was 5%, and there's for a total of 152 billion pesos. And this is an improvement, an important improvement in our operating profit, which grew by 25%, achieving 56 billion pesos. And here we need to add to this operating income, the equity method. And the final result. As you can see, in terms of discontinuing the Sofos operations in 2020 and the comparison between 2020 and 2021, that gives us the difference in the consolidated income in the period. In summary, and as Mr. Corredor said, this is a positive result from all of the companies which are part of the group. It's a very positive result. The companies have been very effective in controlling expenses, and this is why we've been able to achieve this positive result, not just in our profit, but also in our EBITDA, but also in our cash flow exposure, and in terms of comprehensive results. Moving on, looking at our consolidated profit and loss, there's some big numbers here, and I'd like to go back to what Mr. Corredor said in terms of assets and liabilities. The open position at CRCC, you can see in the table, this is a position which grew quite significantly. From 66 trillion in 2020, we grew to 105 trillion. And this is very important for the consolidated group's equity. You can see these same numbers in liabilities. In the chamber, the asset liability balance gives us a neutral position and consolidates a final equity position of 649 billion pesos, which shows the solidity of our business, enables us to share this solid result with you. In terms of cash flow and equity, the cash flow situation, the consolidated cash flow situation, shows the good operation results from different companies in the group. with their healthy cash flow, the cash flow that they take care of by controlling expenses and complying with provider payments, and gives us a final result of close to 47 billion pesos, a very positive position. In terms of equity, the important change, which, and again, going back to the shareholders' question from before, the most important change was the extraordinary dividend that was paid last year. And apart from that, we have a very solid equity position with very, very good growth prospects for the future. From here, I'd like to move on to closing the presentation of the financial statements and ask if anybody has any questions as I move on to looking at first-time adoption items. This is about Colombian Financial Superintendent's External Circular 36 from 2014 about implementing IFRS related to depreciation of property of the company, which moved to lease contracts. I would like to explain the adjustment that we made in 2021 in terms of value. In 2021, the value was 126 billion pesos, which includes property that we own in Bogota and Medellin, and is accounted for by a reclassification of equity, which really actually has no effect on equity. It's a neutral effect, but we are complying here with the obligation of including it as an annex to the financial statements from 2021. And with that, Mr. President, I conclude my presentation of the financial statements. I'd like to remind shareholders that managers and members of the board at the company, any shareholders who have those qualities should please abstain from voting on the next point. Thank you, Diego, for the presentation. I would like to ask the shareholders if they have any questions about the financial statements, the individual and consolidated financial statements. Okay, if there are no questions, and thank you for the presentation on the financial statements. And we would like to submit to a vote by the Assembly the approval of the financial statements. Voting has opened. Please go to the voting platform, click on Verify Active Votes.
Se cierra la votación.
And the vote has now closed. Please, would you tell us, Mr. Velandia, the results of the vote, and then I will invite Mr. Espejo. And I would like to inform you that this point has been approved by 95.11% of the quorum. Thank you, Mr. Velandia. The financial statements, the individual and consolidated financial statements have been approved. Please go ahead, Mr. Espejo. Yes, The voting's blocked for me. I can't click on the verify active voting button. I just spoke with the technician who called me, and there's no solution. You've blocked me. We will check. We will check. Don't worry. We'll check and make sure that your vote is registered.
En efecto, señor Espejo, estamos revisando en la plataforma.
Mr. Espejo, we are just revising the platform, and your vote has not been registered. So please, if you would indicate your voting intent, we will include your shares according to the vote that you indicate. Yes, my vote is to approve, but I would very much like to have this option active for the rest of the votes, because the chat is also disabled, and it's a bit annoying when you click on the button and nothing happens. Yeah, we're working on this. We're verifying. Yep, someone will contact with you. Someone will contact you to make sure that you can vote on the next items, and we are working on this, and we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. And please, would you indicate to us if the problem has been resolved? Thank you very much.
Muy bien.
Okay, very good. Should we move on? Should we move on to the next point on the agenda? Eight. Revision and approval of the Constitution of Reserves and the Profit Distribution Project. On the website, the project has been published with regard to 2021. It's been approved by the Board of Directors on the 23rd of February 2022. Thank you, Alberto. I'd like to hand over to Mr. Córdoba so that he can present the proposal to us. Thank you, Mr. President. Here you can see in the presentation the proposal for the Profit Distribution Project, which we want to propose to the Assembly, and it comes with the Board of Directors' recommendation. Excuse me. Look, we want to propose this to the Assembly. It's been recommended by the Board of Directors. We want to propose distributing 90% of the profits from the period. And this takes into account two very important elements. The first is that in the valuation process that we went through in terms of regional integration, we've committed to keeping a cash reserve and this means that on the day of integration, we do need to have a portfolio equivalent to those 90 billion pesos. And so I think the fact that we had such good results in 2021 and our projections for 2022 allows us to go crazy and propose this 90% distribution to shareholders. The other aspect is that not all 2021 profits will not be taxed, but we do have reserves from previous years which are non-taxable. So what we're proposing is that we will release reserves from 2017 and constitute a reserve with the profits from this year to ensure that in the distribution we're going to make, the full distribution will be non-taxable. So with that explanation, we have the pre-tax profit, which you can see up on the screen, and we will be releasing what we need to complete the non-taxable dividend, and we'll be reconstituting as voluntary reserves the amount necessary plus the 10% which we're not going to distribute as a reserve for future distributions. So this gives us final profit to distribute of 35.5 billion pesos divided by the number of shares gives us a total of 580 pesos per share. This is growth of 6% in the ordinary dividend. If you remember last year, we had a certain amount of ordinary dividend and we had the other portion of extraordinary dividends. So against the ordinary dividend, the extraordinary dividend, excuse me, was the product of the sale of Sofos, as we'd already mentioned. In terms of the ordinary dividend, the growth is 6%. And in terms of it gives us a yield of 6%. 6% yield for shareholders on the dividends. So we're proposing that the dividend payment is made in two quotas. The first would be on the 29th of April for 50%, and on the 30th of June, the other 50%. The dividends will be paid to whoever holds the share in accordance to Article 455 of the Commercial Code. We're also going to be able to achieve that all of the dividend is non-taxable. And given that there are two quotas for the dividend payment, we'll have two ex-dividend periods, which will be the 4 business days prior to the payment date. So between the 20th of April and the 29th of April 2022 will be the ex-dividend period for the first period, and between the 24th of June and the 30th of June 2022 will be the ex-dividend period for the second payment. This is our proposal for the Assembly, 587 pesos per share, which gives us a total of 35.5 billion pesos. Thank you, Mr. Juan Pablo. So we'd like to submit to a vote of shareholders this distribution project, which has been approved by the Board of Directors on the 23rd of February 2022. Shareholders, from this moment, voting is open. Please, would you go to the voting platform and click on the Verify Active Voting button.
Doctor Velandia,
Mr. Velandia, please,
nos indica los resultados.
would you share the results of the vote with us? Yes, Mr. President. On this point, the system shows us that 99.99% of the quorum has approved the profit distribution project. Thank you very much.
¿Le parece entonces?
If I think we should move on to the next item on the agenda. 9th point on the agenda, the Corporate Social Responsibility Program and the Annual Donation Program.
Le doy la palabra al
I'd like to hand over to Diego Fernandez so that he can explain to shareholders our Corporate Social Responsibility Program. Thank you, Mr. President. This topic is totally linked to the strategic pillar that Mr. Cordova explained to us in his management reports. It's connected to our sustainability topics. It's something we've been working on for many years. As Mr. Cordova mentioned, we want to continue to support the talent initiatives and continue to support these young people with their education in digital transformation and improve their employability, and also to continue with our grant program at the Polytechnic, which is a technical and technological program supported by the Ministry of Education, continue supporting these young people and giving them the skills that the country needs today. And what we want to request today from shareholders is that the budget for 2022, the budget for donations in 2022 is 600 million pesos, which is about allowing ever more young Colombians to receive education and become employable. And basically that's it. That's our request to shareholders as part of our sustainability initiatives. Thank you, Diego. On this point, the Board of Directors on the 23rd of February 2022 recommended that we put this to the Assembly, and the proposal was available for shareholders to revise on the BBC's website for the amount of time required for them to do so. Thank you. We would like to ask you, shareholders, please to vote on our social responsibility program and our annual donations program. Shareholders, from now the vote is open. Please go to the voting platform and click on the Verify Active Vote button.
En este momento se cierra la votación.
And the vote has now closed. Please, would you tell us the results of the vote? Yes, Mr. President. On this point, The system registers that 97.45% of the quorum has approved the point. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for your support for this topic. Mr. Secretary, please continue to the next point on the agenda. 10th item, shareholder proposals according to Article 44 of the company bylaws. Okay, so we didn't receive any proposals to incorporate other topics into the day's agenda. And according to the process established in Article 44 of the company bylaws, I would like to thank you all for your attendance today. It's great to be able to approve and see this incredibly positive result from the Colombian Security Exchange. I'd like to thank you all for your support, our customers, our stakeholders. We're very optimistic about this year, this coming year, and we will continue to develop our capital markets. I would like to conclude the assembly and I'd like to hand over to Alberto Frey, who has his hand up. Thank you. Very good afternoon, shareholders, Mr. Juan Pablo Córdoba, and President, Mr. Mauricio. My name is Alberto Frey Omaña Duran. I am honored to be here in this company. I was a stockbroker, a quantum stockbroker, and I managed the largest mutual fund in Colombia, the Jesuit mutual fund, 17 companies. Today, I have the opportunity of managing my family's portfolios, and I've always been aware of the Colombian Securities Exchange. It's always been at the top of my mind. I'd like to, first of all, congratulate you on your excellent results from last year. The dividend, obviously greater, but it's one of the most important dividends that the Colombian companies is achieving in terms of the future. This broadening of the capital market makes me think that this year the results really are going to be exceptional. Yesterday I was at the Banco de Bogotá assembly. I said, again, it's when I was working with Éxito supermarket chain. It pains me to know that a lot of the time private individuals are scared about what's going on. When investors or speculators, I mean, one thing is trading, another thing is being an investor, another thing is being a speculator. Really, how this affects the price of shares. So my proposal, my complementary proposal, is to ask Mr. Juan Pablo Córdoba if you would be able to revise the possibility of establishing the true percentage that should be considered when you want to increase or reduce the value of the price of a share. Because really, I mean, it doesn't make any sense. It makes me really sad when I see that the Colombian Securities Exchange seems to be trying to depreciate over a minimum number of shares, and I think this is really important. And this would give us really more consistency, more trust, because this exchange with MSCI Colcap, I mean, this is a globally important thing, and we need to stop people from thinking that this is a casino, and it's something that really requires a deep technical analysis of everything. related to price formation. And I think this is my position. Without doubt, that I would ask that please would you revise and establish some values which are representative and not coming out with 100 or I don't know what 200 shares or 10,000 shares when really the number of shares could be 500,000. So that's what I'm suggesting. That's what I'm proposing, so that people don't get scared and they can see that this Colombian Securities Exchange is one of the best and one of the most important in the world. And the third thing that I want to suggest is in terms of future years' profit, that a value is established that leaves a reserve for share buybacks. I mean, this happens in the best companies, the best listed companies in the world. And for me, the Colombian Securities Exchange, as an ex-broker with investments in all sorts of exchanges, this is what I want to contribute. This, I feel very proud and very happy, Mr. Juan Pablo Córdoba and his team are very exceptional people, and it gives me great pleasure to see these results. So thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Alberto, for your comments and for your kind words about our management. It really, the point that you mention is one of continual analysis and a lot of discussion in the Colombian market. I think you touch on two very important topics. I mean, the one is the close of IPOs, which the other one is price setting. I mean, what's the threshold for the value of a transaction, which is accounted for price formation? And this is a topic that we're continually studying and revising. We have market committees. These aren't decisions that we take unilaterally. I mean, these are made hand in hand with all other participants in the market. As you know, we have an equities committee with 10 different exchange firms which are in the securities market, and hand in hand with them, we do this type of analysis. So I hear your uncertainty. It's something we're continually looking at, and we will look at again in our ordinary topics of conversation in the committees. In terms of liquidity, the initiative that we have with the Chilean and the Peruvian exchanges is exactly working towards that, to creating a larger exchange with greater liquidity, with more participants. It's something you mentioned in terms of prices. There's sometimes low liquidity and few shares means that it's hard. And in terms of generating more liquidity, we need to reduce the incidence of this problem. So we're very happy to hear your uncertainties, and believe me that we work every day to improve the exchange. In terms of share buybacks, I mean, we are controlled by the Colombian financial superintendents. Can we do that? Can't we do that? It's an assembly decision, so we will study it at the board of directors with a view to forming a proposal at a future assembly. Thank you very much. Well, thank you very much to everybody. Once again, we would like to thank you for your participation. Thank you very much to all.
Recording stopped.
Recording ended.